Welcome, everybody, to Understanding the Human Condition. I'm your host, Dr. James Flowers, and I am so excited today to have Mel Arenas and Harry Chau Stafford with us from BreatheFit, who we utilize every single day in this practice with every single one of our patients. And I'm just really honored to have you guys in the studio today.
Thanks for having us, Dr. Flowers. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Honor's ours.
you bet. Absolutely. Mel, I want to start with you. Tell me about yourself, if you would. Tell the audience about yourself and BreatheFit.
Well, thanks again for having us. Number one, BreatheFit was actually a little bit myself first. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade, been one since almost 30 years now. I've been in healthcare for about 25 years, either with some type of an executive position or more than anything else, really part of the healthcare continuum. And a little bit, again, I was a personal trainer earlier on. I actually had a chance to work with the Houston Rockets at a very, very early age, became a respiratory therapist afterwards, and really found my niche in consulting in healthcare. And I think that's how BreatheFit was actually born. And I think as we'll learn more about that during our conversation, you'll see how we brought in the medical side with the fitness side.
That's right. So many of our patients ask us, what is a respiratory therapist?
Uh-huh.
How would you describe a respiratory therapist? Because I think everybody has a visualization of a respiratory therapist being in the hospital and COVID and things like that. So talk to us about being a respiratory
It's funny you
therapist.
said that. Respiratory therapy actually came out more in the limelight after COVID,
Sure.
and the necessity for them being a more niche type of ancillary provider
Mhm.
has become more upfront with the breathing conditions.
Right.
Now, I think you expanded it well. Respiratory therapy goes onto many different facets of healthcare, not only from the acute care side, but also the post acute care side. Now you see them in the world of durable medical equipment,
Oh,
innovation, technology. My background has been the world of pulmonary rehabilitation. So I actually used to own 40 plus rehabs across
wow.
the nation, and utilizing my talents as a respiratory therapist with fitness
Hmm.
is how, again, Breathe Fit basically came around.
That's great. And Harry's Chow Stafford.
Yes,
So
sir.
nice to have you too. And I know, I didn't know this about you, but just before when we were introducing you to everybody here in the room, you said, I'm a former Houston police officer. Tell
Yes,
us about your background and being a police officer.
yes, sir. That's
And thank
correct.
you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I served 15 years at the Houston Police Department from 1992 to 2005. I was a line unit officer. I was in uniform patrol. I worked at several different major command stations, West Side, Beach Nut. I was also part of the gang task force. I was undercover in Vice, undercover in narcotics, and I
Wow.
did the department's tactical response team. Loved what I did. I enjoyed it. There's a stereotype amongst a lot of law enforcement that they're wildly out of shape and love eating donuts. And while I cannot confirm or deny that second one, being in shape, fitness was very much an important part of my daily activity.
Sure.
So we preached it, we lived it. It was life or death.
Yeah,
So that's why we took it so seriously.
absolutely. And did you retire from the police department?
I did 15 years, and instead of doing my full 20, I decided it was time to
Move on.
move on and find a
Yeah.
better thing and find different career
Yeah.
objectives. And I think we found it.
I was going to
So,
say, and you obviously found it in Breathe Fit.
yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
Who
sir.
wants to tell the audience a little bit about Breathe Fit and the services that you offer really to everyone? And I came by your office earlier this week. It was amazing. I had a workout with each of you. It was fantastic. I think I'm still sore a little bit. But so many of our patients that come, as you all know, we work with a very complicated,
Yes.
complex group of individuals with a variety of issues. Some people have medical issues. Some people are suffering from mental health issues. Some people addiction issues. Some people a little bit of all of the above, right?
Right.
And 100% of the families that I talk with prior to their loved one coming in for evaluation or treatment say, well, Dr. Flowers, why do they need to go to Breathe? What is Breathe Fit? And why do they need to have an evaluation by Breathe Fit? And how does that help with their addiction or their mental health, even, or their medical condition? So, Mel, I'm going to throw that ball right out to you.
Okay. Well, again, briefly, what I felt, Harry and I actually, when we created this, it was actually born out of necessity. We have found, as you know, doctor, that there are gaps in healthcare that a lot of places don't have, or actually, because of our healthcare system, unfortunately, they are just spaces where people need help. Well, Breathe Fit, again, was hopefully able to fill in those gaps, especially in the world of behavioral health. Owning some of those rehabs through many, many years, we also found out that a lot of people suffer through the mental troubles of healing. And I think this is such a great piece that Breathe Fit has in order for us to really expand not only our practice and our expertise on the fitness side, but we were able to touch also the mental setbacks that some
Right.
people actually have. we have found this with your J Flowers clients. And so far, what we have appears to be the outcomes have been tremendous. In fact, when we were here, when we walked in
Mhm.
J Flowers here before the interview, right? We actually saw one of our clients, shared
Excellent.
clients, and her face lit up.
Yeah.
And this individual, if we all remember,
Sure.
she was a different person when she first came in.
Yeah.
And when we walked in through the door outside of BreatheFit,
Mhm.
to be welcomed by
Yeah.
her
The
in such a
genuineness,
love, yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that just not only proves what BreatheFit does, but what Jay Flowers does as a
Mm,
collaborative
Yeah.
in helping this individual heal. Ultimately, BreatheFit, yes. And the name is deceiving. You
Mhm.
think it's just breathe only. It is not. The sad part is why we chose BreatheFit, that breathing is essential.
Sure.
No matter what, it's life, it's a necessity. It is something that we require as human beings.
Mhm.
It's healing. It is something that we as athletes also utilize as performance.
Mhm.
So that's the reason why BreatheFit's name was developed.
I think it's such a unique, perfect name for what you do.
Thank
You
you.
know, I think what people don't realize and what so many people struggle with is the connection between the mind and the body and not really understanding that when we're out of shape and we don't feel good and we're eating the wrong foods and we're just not living up to our body's expectation
Right.
and it begins to atrophy, that guess what? Our brain begins to atrophy. Working with thousands of chronic pain patients over the years that I've worked with, really, it was always difficult explaining that mind. It wasn't difficult explaining it, but it was always difficult for the patient to initially understand there is no separation between this body and this brain,
Well
right?
said.
agreed.
And when the brain is depressed, body doesn't want to move. And when the body doesn't move, the brain gets more depressed and it becomes this cycle. Another thing that we always teach people with chronic pain and medical complications that I've taught for 30 years really is proper breathing, diaphragmatic breathing,
Mm,
because diaphragmatic breathing really makes the blood circulate in our body and refreshes and
Well
brings
said.
oxygenates our body, right? When
That's
we
correct.
use our respiration, it helps us feel better and it helps our bodies and our mind relax. So I was so excited when I heard about you guys and I came by. The very first exercise that you gave me, I think it was you, but maybe Harry, is I laid on the floor on a mat with a pillow under my head, and you and I breathed together for about 5 minutes, I think. And that was amazing. I was like, wait, I thought I was coming here to work out, not breathe.
and you did, but we had to do the step one first, and we had to reteach everybody how to breathe properly because Mel loves using the example. Like when we tell people, when you have children, watch your baby in the crib. What's the only thing that's moving? You see their tummy goes up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
Yet sometime as boys became men, we were told to stick that chest out. When we
Mhm.
breathe in, we're told to inhale and puff our chest
Mhm.
out. When in actuality, that is the worst way. That is the least efficient way of breathing. So Mel begins sessions by teaching everybody the proper way,
Yeah.
reteaching how to diaphragmatically breathe.
Yeah.
And his techniques are valid. They're fantastic. They work. My 35 years of martial arts training, I have multiple belts in different disciplines. I've also done internal martial arts like Qigong and Qingyi, where
Nice.
diaphragmatic breathing is an essential part of the whole process. So for us to be able to share these things and put it together, and we reinforce that with physical activity, i.e. lifting weights, resistance training, all of a sudden it all comes together and people have that aha moment when they realize how the breathing and the lifting weights all go together.
Yeah. Something else I talk about with medical patients and chronic pain patients is that diaphragmatic breathing. The minute we fall asleep, the second we fall asleep at night, we stop breathing from our chest up here
That is
and we
correct.
start breathing from our diaphragm. And then when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is take a deep breath from our chest, right? And we're like, oh, it's time to start the day. And it's like, no, let's start it down here, right? And get that blood flowing.
And you said it best, doctor. I mean, I think that is one of the big misconceptions that we forget every
Mhm.
day is that is to utilize the gifts that we're supposed to, the way we're supposed to technically breathe. And Harry said it right here is just a lot of times, especially during mental health, people will sit there, take
Mhm.
a deep breath. But how do you do that?
Right.
And you just said it best right there. When a lot of the J Flowers clients come and visit, that's one of the things we try to assemble is that in between their sets when they are resting
Yep.
is to focus on the mechanics of a proper breath.
It's so interesting. Over the years, I've been in and out of working with trainers, right? And at different gyms, right? And when you hire a personal trainer, one of the things that they always say when you're lifting that and putting those weights down is breathe in, breathe out. but they never teach you how to breathe.
So
You
true.
never hear them talking about
Mm-hmm.
what is proper breathing, right? And you guys, the first thing you did is we're going to start with how to breathe, right? Then we started lifting some weights. We did some leg workout. We did some other things this week. And every exercise I did with you guys, you told me where to breathe, diaphragmatically or with my chest, or one
Right.
of the two,
Right.
or nose and mouth,
Exactly.
right? So
Yes.
I love that you guys add that benefit. Something that I'd love to hear from you, Harry, really is, you mentioned Qigong.
Yes.
Talk about Qigong and how that really calms the mind and calms the body and the nervous system.
Well, and just like you said, it's an internal martial art. It's a form of combat that's slowed down the movements. It helps the without getting esoterical, without getting
Yeah.
too Eastern. It helps the flow of energy in the body. And when you do any kind of physical activity, you cannot hold your breath. We do it every day when people are unloading groceries or take things out of their car. When people lift weights, they either hold their breath throughout the entire eccentric or concentric portion, or they breathe the wrong way. Going back to very basic Qigong training, we teach the body how to breathe and how to move. And there's a reason why you see the 90-year-old Asian grandmothers in the park doing Tai Chi, Qigong, Xingyi, because, well, they can increases the vitality. These are very basic things that anybody can learn. And it's one of the many modalities that we share that we offer
That's
to
right.
any patient or client that comes over to BreatheFit.
I was so surprised just now to hear you say it was a form of combat.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
never knew that. I always thought it was
Xingyi,
a form of meditation.
and it is.
It
It
is.
is. It
Yeah.
is. And again, Mel loves using this example.
Yeah.
Like the way you said, people give the wrong impression. They think, oh, what is BreatheFit? Are we going to hold hands and do kumbaya? And the relaxation, the meditative portion of breathing is just as important. But we emphasize the physical, the performance aspect of it. That's why we're called BreatheFit.
I love it. That's great. You know, what I'd love to do is, preparing for this podcast today, I ask you guys if you would think of 3 cases that you've worked with,
Right.
really J. Flowers Health Institute's patients that we've collaborated on. So why don't we run through just a couple of cases, 2 or 3 cases, and talk about each case. So I'll let you start, Mel.
Okay. Well, I think one of the, and again, these were just kind of handpicked
Sure.
and just random, but I think more than anything else is really the outcome and how J Flowers is truly the essence of collaboration, utilizing your therapists as well as all the other vendors and care providers. This is not just BreatheFit in general. These are just a great snapshots, but I want everybody to know that this is the accumulation, a collaborative that really got these people to their outcomes.
And what I want to say first is all 3 of these cases that I looked through here this morning,
Yep.
all 3 of these had decompensated minds
Mm.
and decompensated bodies prior
Well
to
said.
starting with you guys and with Jay Flowers. And so let's talk a little bit about your process and what we
Okay.
did here.
Now, the first subject is pretty, again, it's a 21-year-old male, he came in with 19.5% body fat and
And
weighed
what's
168
normal
pounds.
body fat for a male?
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
True. So 19.5, a normal body fat for a male, it technically is
Mhm.
anywhere from about 12 to 13%, all the way to about 25,
Got it.
26.
Okay.
And so he's right there on the average
Yep.
of a quote unquote, what's considered a healthy male average.
You got it.
So this gentleman here, he came in with just a brief description of depression, a little anxiety, some OCD, unable to manage some of the stress, and a little bit poor sleep. So one of our most important questions we ask everybody, what are your goals
Sure.
being in BreatheFit? And this were literally what he told us was better breathing, gain lean muscle tissue, strength, and self-defense. The process that we utilized to make him try to achieve these areas was simple heavy weight exercises with light reps, blending some of those disciplines together, providing ancillary programs with personal workouts. That was another thing he requested,
Mhm.
that he worked out
Yep.
outside of BreatheFit.
So
And
what could he do back at the apartment or the hotel or what have
exactly.
you? Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's
Mhm.
another reason, again, utilizing BreatheFit is that you're only with us for a couple hours a week.
Right.
We want to create life changing development.
That's right.
So we teach.
Yeah.
And then we taught basic self defense and strike techniques that he really wanted. The outcomes were phenomenal with this individual. He ended up actually gaining weight, but that was muscle weight because look at his body fat 16.4%. He went down about 3%.
So he went down from 19.5 to 16.4, gained a few pounds to
Correct.
173 pounds, but those pounds that he gained were really muscle.
It truly
Lost
was.
fat, gained muscle. Muscle is
Correct.
heavier than fat.
And for a 21-year-old, I apologize, not 21-year-old. I mean, changing the way he looks and his appearance, his confidence,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
everything else, his image, the way he looked at himself was different. He increased his overall strength. He was able to perform some of the self-defensive techniques, and breathing was no longer an issue.
Right.
Again, a neat snapshot of this individual.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good. All right. Let's talk about a 56-year-old female with 28% body fat, and she came in weighing about 130, I believe.
That is correct. So she is a current patient that's still active with
Mhm.
Jay Flowers, and she sees us regularly. So when she came in, as we always do, we have our assessment with somebody, and we found out that she's suffering from depression, social anxiety disorder, and having some PTSD. So when we asked her her goals, she gave us a very unique response. She said, "I don't know."
Mhm.
And what unless you were there, so we'll try to paint the picture. When she came into us and she was having her assessment, she was very closed, very introverted. She wouldn't make eye contact, or her body language, her arms were held like she was hugging herself. In our assessment room, we have two recliners, and Mel was sitting on one side of the room, and I was behind a little podium desk jotting notes down. She kept fidgeting to the point where you could tell she wasn't comfortable just being in that room. So she actually stood up, walked over, and stood in the doorway. She didn't feel trapped.
Right.
So we allowed her the space, and we just began, like always, we customize every single workout to the individual who comes. We don't use a cookie cutter. We don't say, okay, today's Monday, it's National Chest Day.
Right.
We do a cookie cutter thing. So we began her modalities, her therapies. In the process, we started basic core exercises to build her confidence level, because it's always a start. We always start with core training. We began to have her learn how to move, like something we take so simply for granted, walking. We put her on the treadmill, and putting on her treadmill at a low mile per hour at a low incline was exhausting to her. So just core exercises, basic mobility. We worked with another trainer that we have there on flow and flexibility, and we did things to help boost her confidence. It's amazing when you take a little bit of weight and you make somebody lift it, and when they can accomplish that, the feeling of accomplishment it gives
Sure.
them, and a feeling of confidence. So we repeated these twice a week, over and over and over. So here are the outcomes. So she's currently still in the program, and she improves with each visit. Again, when she first came in, she wouldn't make eye contact. She spoke to us in 1, 2 word answers. We ask open-ended questions. She would say yes or no.
Right.
She comes in now laughing. She comes in asking us, "How are you guys doing?" And we're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, well, we're
It's
great. How are
wonderful.
you?"
That's great.
When she comes in now, we do the core, we do the mobility, we do the flow, but now she wants to lift weights.
Right.
And we've even discussed a little bit of Filipino stick fighting training, or a little bit of punch training, but let's not.
There you
But
go.
when she's ready, we're ready to provide that.
That's
So,
right.
and then the main thing was, she told us when she leaves every
Yeah.
day, she tells us, "I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow or next week."
That's
Great.
huge.
That is huge. I
Something-
know her
yes.
well. And for her to come in and say, I don't know, is probably not so unique. I think there's probably a lot of patients that come in who come in confused and why am I doing this? And I'm not sure what my fitness goals are, like her,
Hmm.
and very timid. And, you two ones of men are standing there, muscular and not intimidating.
No.
You're so welcoming, but it also for her or me, when I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so embarrassed to work out with these guys this morning. But you know what? Within a minute, I felt so comfortable and
Thank you.
relaxed.
Good.
Thank
And
you.
that really makes a difference, right?
Of
Because,
course.
I need to get back. I run 28 marathons and haven't run one in a few years.
Thumbs up to you for that.
And I need to get back in and start doing more things physically. And just being in your gym made me feel comfortable and
Thank you,
relaxed and
Dr.
going,
Thank you.
I
Thank
can
you.
do this a lot. And this particular individual has made a significant amount of progress. You see her walking through the room differently. She carries herself differently. So not only is her fitness being improved with you guys, but her mind, her body, and her spirit
Mm.
is being improved with all of the modalities that we're all utilizing in collaboration with each other.
It definitely shows with that example.
Yeah.
It's a joint success. It really
Yeah.
is. Everybody.
Yep, absolutely. And then, this sounds high to me. A 57-year-old Mel, 31% body fat. That's on that high end, isn't
It
it?
is on the higher end, but this individual, if you recollect,
Yeah.
this individual had some other
Mhm.
mental setbacks and other issues he was going through. And
Yeah.
so it may be indicative maybe of a higher number, but I think this also shows how diversified Jay Flowers is as a team, because I think all the different vendors and the treatments and all the therapists, no matter what shape or person that comes in here,
Right.
they can fit.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful part about your team.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely. And this individual was a very high functioning executive in the city of Houston. And
Yes.
he also suffered from alcoholism, right? He was a functional alcoholic. An alcoholic nonetheless would come home and drink and sometimes even drink during the day. But suffering from alcoholism, had a lot of ankle and hand difficulties and medical
Yes.
injuries, and had a right rotator cuff injury.
That is correct. And then I think that's one of the toughest parts is I think that's a beautiful part about BreatheFit is how we started the program was that we're that slot between that acute medical to that
Mhm.
fitness world. So we were able to handle a case like this that
Yes.
leaned a little bit more medical.
Mhm.
So a lot of this client's goals were just get back to a healthy exercise routine, some basic strength, and deal with his pain. The
Yeah.
pain was excruciating.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for us in the very beginning. We had to be creative to
Mhm.
find different exercise to where, number one, it did not distract them from coming. But
Right.
number two, at least to get some relief and improvement. So the
Yeah.
process we took with this individual, we really helped with his range of motion.
Yeah.
He was, because of his weight, because of his size, because of his injuries,
Mhm.
we had to modify certain types of exercise to help him with those range of motion. And it worked. Strength training really helped him with his basic stability and core. That was important. We helped reduce the pain. There was one area, and the reason why I picked this one is that everybody thinks that, at least on the BreatheFit side, that there's going to be huge successes.
Mhm.
We had a minor success towards his pain on walking.
Right.
There was a little bit of help, but we were able to help him with walk and gait
Mhm.
and improve that with a team effort in order for us to help relieve the pain, but it never went away.
That's right.
So
Sure.
again, we all try our best.
Yep.
The outcomes were great. He was able really to lift heavier loads. His range of motion is increased. I remember that right shoulder, we were able to actually gain another several percentages of movement and different type of angles, which he didn't have
Mhm.
earlier on. And the endurance, I think, is what helped. The walking, though he had pain, I think he was more comfortable in his pain and able to walk further distances.
Absolutely. And I remember him reporting his pain level when he first came into the practice. He said his pain level was a consistent 7, 8,
Yeah.
sometimes
Mhm.
up
Yep.
to a 9.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
when he left the program, and I think he reported his pain level at about a 1 or a 2, which was amazing, right?
Agreed.
And
Kudos.
that is a combination of what the biopsychosocial model,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Your piece, the physical therapy piece, our piece, and the working out piece, the mind, body, spirit, cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, mindfulness, and really changing the way he felt about his body, but also learning to live a sober, healthy life,
Mhm.
right?
That's so
Mhm.
Yeah.
important.
Having a sponsor, going to meetings, and really getting his life in a way that he could once again thrive, not only professionally, but at home and every other part of his life.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Thank you guys so much. How does someone reach Breathe Fit?
So we have our own office, of course.
Sure.
We have our own little gym, and in essence, as a reminder that we are in essence a personal training studio.
Yeah.
Mel and I are both ACE certified personal trainers. We also have medical exercise specialties and corrective exercise specialties. So we'd love to be able to see anybody
You bet.
outside of here, or
Yep.
we have our own studio at 511 Katy Freeway, suite number 105 at the Kirkwood exit. Our website is www.breathe-fitness.com, and our office number is 713-487-9811. And the reason I'm smirking is because for the longest time when we do these interviews and we have to ask for the office number, I always forget the first three numbers. So
All the
if he
time.
would write it
All the
down,
time.
but
And
yes,
flash them
yes.
to
You
them.
know, I always forget our phone number as well. And when I was like, I'm going to say his number that's exactly what I was thinking. just
Exactly.
now.
Exactly.
Yeah. You guys, I love collaborating with you guys. I appreciate your time and effort coming in. I know it took time away from your patients today, so we appreciate you coming in. And to reach J Flowers Health, simply go to www.jflowershealth.com or 713-783-6655. And of course, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and really any of the apps where you can download podcasts. Understanding the Human Condition with Dr. James Flowers. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
having
Dr.
us.
Flowers. Thank you
bet.
very much.
Yep. Have a great day.
You too.